I'm Husky Light. Thank you for dropping by, Daniella. I'm with my friend, Yolanta Murray, and she is a psychic medium who lives in Ontario. We do a lot of psychic shows together around, and she's also the co-host of another YouTube channel called Hauntings Live. Is that right?
It, it is Hauntings Live, and we were really lucky because we had you on the podcast um, just a couple weeks ago, and that was actually a lot of fun.
It
A
was.
lot of
I,
fun.
I had to get my Sasquatch experience. I needed to get that out. So I've done that a couple of times now with yourself and the Bigfoot Society. Oh, and Into the Fray. If you've ever heard of that one. But yeah, I needed to just purge on that one. Get it out.
Yeah, and I mean, we got the Bigfoot, we got a little bit about fairies and other experiences.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was a lot of fun. It's always fun talking about some of the experiences that we've had
Yeah,
as psychic mediums, or just even just as regular people, because it's demystifying it. So many people have experiences, and they either think they're crazy, or they just don't know what to make of it, or that they're alone. And it's nice to be able to share,
it
so
is.
people know that they're not alone.
It is. It's really good for others to hear that they're not alone. I mean, it's good for us as well because sometimes we can't go to people that don't have these experiences because they'll just look at you and think you're crazy. Um, you can't.
Exactly.
There's some friends that you can go to, and there's some friends that you wouldn't even think of bringing this subject up with at all. So the ones that you can bring the subject up with who actually understand as well, because they have experiences, that's just awesome. We can just say
It
what we
is.
say and figure it out sometimes.
You know what? Yeah, it's that, who can we be authentic with?
Yeah,
And it's so important to have those intimate friendships where you can just be like, wow, this happened. And honestly, as a podcast co-host, it is so cool to hear all of these experiences. Like, I've experienced so much, and then it's just kind of like, I can't get enough of hearing other people's experiences. Like, it's wild. This world that we live in is absolutely so cool.
it is, and it gets wilder by the day, or it gets wilder by the year, the month as well. And I don't know
The
about
hour.
you, but we do. I say to a lot of people when I'm doing readings that are also having experiences that it goes in waves.
Yes.
So when you've dropped down and you're in 3D sort of thing and you're doing life, because we all have to do life. So we all are doing the life thing. It tends to drop down a little bit and then it will go up again. But then again, saying that, I've been like stuck deep in situations that are so far from being spiritual, it's untrue. And then I've still had things happen or spiritual experiences. So I don't know what the mathematical equation or the combination is for it to happen, whether it's all astrological or whether it's we're near running water or whether it's our connection at that time. But it does seem to it goes in waves. Do you agree with that? Or is that
I,
you?
yeah, it tends, yes, to go in waves. The depth of the experience tends to go in waves as well. So, at some points, I think I'm not as, I'm not pulling as clear information, or it's not coming in the way that, it has in the past that's been more fulfilling to me and my ego. What I think is wild too is that in some of the most horrible and traumatic moments in my life, I've also had some of the most profound connection, like moments where, I didn't even know what I was going to do 5 minutes from now. I've had some of the best readings I've ever pulled in my life. Um, which I think is fascinating. Another thing that I learned doing all of this is this moon stuff. It really does have an impact, at least for
Yes.
me. Um, there's so much that I've learned. Like 10 years ago, if you were to tell me, yeah, full moons have an impact on people, I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, superstition, whatever. It doesn't have an impact on me. But then falling into this world and tracking it just for fun,
Yeah.
um, oh my God. Um, and not just even just like full moons, new moons, but it's like the certain ones or certain
Yeah.
times of year, they have like a bigger impact on me. And, even if I'm not actually actively paying attention to a moon, I could notice, I'm heightened in this way, or I've walked outside and people have been behaving in this way. If I pop back onto astrology, I tend to find that we're either coming up to the new moon like a couple days or a full moon, or it's just past. Like
I
it's bloody
definitely,
wild.
yeah, I definitely think it has a more or a lesser effect on somebody depending on what's going on in their astrology chart. And I'm not an astrologist, but do you know what I mean? It's to a lesser or bigger degree depending on what's going on in the astrology. And I don't think people even need to know what's going on because
No,
you see people around you and you can look at them and you know it's a full moon and you know that they're acting kooky or they're in a bad mood or they're reacting in some way. And you know damn well it's the moon that's affecting. They don't need to know. They probably
no,
don't because they don't follow things like this. But we can look at other people and say, yeah, that's that's the eclipse, that's the full moon, and then you'll see them change
yeah,
again afterwards and go more back to their normal selves afterwards. But
it's wild.
it's
It's just
fascinating.
wild. And again, like not even all that long ago, had someone told me that this is like a real thing or that it really has an impact on me, I would have called BS so hard.
Hmm.
Like maybe fun, maybe if I'm paying attention, then maybe like I'm just making it up or I'm going to behave more or notice more, but absolutely not.
I even noticed
That is
the dogs the night before last on the eclipse, this blood moon eclipse. So I don't know what date we're on today. Is it 17th, 18th? Um,
17th, yeah.
yeah, I saw the dogs acting up. They were both,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, all three of them. So I've got little one as well. They were all acting up. It was like, oh my God, crazy in the house, crazy.
My partner, who does not like he believes enough, but he's not at all, even a tiny bit into this world. Hasn't slept. He's definitely been feeling it, and within his astrological chart, some of the tendencies that were more likely to be brought out for him with this eclipse
Hmm.
he's actually fallen into without me saying a word. I've just kept it quiet to myself. He doesn't know, but he's made a few decisions within this eclipse time frame that are on point
Yeah,
with someone of his astrological sign. He has
yeah,
no idea.
it's
None.
perfect. And yeah, you're right. He has no idea, and but you see it happening, and then you get other
Yeah.
things on top of it, like Mercury retrograde and this, that, and the other, which brings it out even more in people.
The Venus retrograde. Yeah, that's
With
been
Venus.
fabulous.
Yeah, that's
Not at all.
yeah, that's been just amazing. Um, not that that's been on my mind for the past couple of years, bless him. But um, yeah, it's you can just see other people reacting to it and feeling it yourself as well. So other people don't need to know. So you don't need to feel it's almost like a little secret. a special little
Yep.
secret that you can look at other people and go, yeah, that's because of this. That's because of this astrological alignment. That's because of this happening. It's our little secret. They really don't need to know because if you try to explain it to them or try to say that's because of this, it's not going to work.
No, no,
Not
no.
going to
People
work.
will come to it when they're ready for it.
Yeah. And are you seeing you're seeing the big divide now as well
Yeah.
without going too far down that route, but we're in that big divide. And I was thinking the other day, it used to be, or we used to think or believe it was part of our awakening and part of our job, in a sense, to help people wake up, um, and to help them down that road. And I am completely the opposite now. If somebody
Yeah.
isn't, if somebody isn't aware, awake, however you want to call it, and already going down that road, it's not for me to interfere at all.
No.
It's not for me to try and convince them of anything.
You
Hopefully,
know what?
yeah,
I don't even talk about it with people. Unless I know that you're on the same wavelength as I am about particular topics. I don't even approach the topic if someone brings it up as kind of like a laughing stock or the crazy people. I don't engage anymore. Where at one point,
we'll try and argue the point or try and
I,
convince.
yeah, because and I mean I saw a post quite some time ago um, that I just think is pertinent is just that the lions are awake. So those that need to be awake, they are at this point, and other people will eventually, if that's their path,
Yeah.
start realizing what's going on.
Hmm.
But it's not the time to sound the alarm bells because those that needed to be present and aware of what's going on at this particular time are present and
Yeah.
aware at this particular time.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that. It's for the ones that are not spiritually awakening, they may do. They may do in the
Yeah,
future, but it's the universe, it's God, it's whoever you or however you want to call it, that is setting off that alarm clock in them to do it. So it's an internal consciousness thing that is going to set them off. It's not us saying something. It's not us doing something that's going to make no difference whatsoever. And our
yeah,
vibration.
and I mean,
Sorry, go on.
you'll just notice that if people are on a certain spiritual wavelength with you, their beliefs and other choices, um, just throughout the board, are different and generally not aligned.
Hmm.
At least with me, they're not aligned anymore. So I'm just a little bit more careful with the engagement that goes on there, as well as the amount of time that I spend um, in those spaces. I'm certainly not avoiding people in any stretch. I'm not treating anybody differently. It's just
Yeah,
that there is a difference in an alignment,
yeah, there's a
and
difference.
quality of conversations and quality of relationship. And that's become more of a priority um, for me.
Yeah, completely agree. There's a difference in frequency, a difference in the way people feel, and understand their particular world that they're living in.
Yeah,
So there is, I mean, I've gone through the surrender, let go of what doesn't serve you, that sort of thing over the years to bring myself into a better space there. But there is
yeah,
still people that we know around us that are not going through any sort of spiritual thing at all, but that's okay because, well, in my case, I don't mix with them that often. I don't see them very often. So when I do see them, I can't do it for very long. I can jump into the 3D conversation about the weather and about the political status and about whatever's going on in the world. I can do that for a little while with them. There's no need for me to discard them because they're not serving me or anything like that because I don't see them all the time.
Yeah.
So, and I think we've
Yeah.
all gone through that part now as well, for the most part, unless you're completely newly awakened. For the
Yeah.
most part, we've gone
It's
through it.
just frequency.
Yeah,
Frequency, it's alignment. And I mean, really, I think discernment in who we, spend most of our energy with, not all of our energy, but most of our energy with, we should be more discerning in terms of they should be more aligned with who we are and where we're going. And that goes with anyone. So
yeah,
there are people that absolutely would not be aligned with me and they wouldn't feel comfortable, and they have whatever opinions. By all means, don't spend very much time with me, and I'm okay with that, because every
yeah,
relationship should feel comfortable.
yeah,
um and that's really it.
yeah. I think we've come to that point of being comfortable with it, as
Yeah.
opposed to when I first was going through the awakening years ago. It's like, oh my God, I've got to wake everybody up. I've got to make everyone aware of this. Why doesn't anybody else know? And there was an urgency. It was almost like an emergency mission to gotta wake everybody up. This is it.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas now it's like, nah, we're good. We're good
Yeah.
completely. But you
And
see that divide getting bigger as time goes on.
and I think part of too what makes it a little bit easier is that we both do readings. And one thing when you do readings is you really have to meet your client, your sitter, where they're at.
Yeah,
What is their level of understanding? How
yeah,
do they understand the world? Well, how do they see the world? Okay, how can we bring this message into that space of their understanding? Because that's what readings are all about. So when it comes to just interacting and just understanding that some people just aren't ready to receive a message. We're fairly well practiced
yes,
in it.
yeah,
Although it was, I agree. I wanted people to understand, well, maybe a little bit more of what's going on in the world, more of this awakening that's going on, more of this divide, and maybe switch sides, because perhaps at the time there were people I didn't want to lose
yeah,
in, like a huge change, if that change was going to be as big as, some people were feeling it was going to be. Um, and that's really changed for me, I
yeah.
think.
It's actually easier now to let go and to move forward, um, compared to how it was a few years ago. It
Yeah.
feels more natural to do
Yeah.
that, and it doesn't. It's not like I can't talk to you ever again, and this you're not awake, and this and this, and it's just a more natural, progressive thing that happens, and
Yeah.
subconsciously, the other people in your life also feel it. They also feel that they're somehow not on the right, or not the right. They're not on the same frequency as you, and they just slowly. I find now they just slowly drift away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just there's a little
I
less
mean,
phone calls and there's a little less talking, but it's in a good way. It's like, hey, this is okay.
yeah. I mean, relationships in the past, they go through cycles, and change and some dissipate, but it was happening at a much slower interval, and things that weren't really feeling great were being held on to by both sides for far too long. And you're right, I'm finding that transition
Yeah,
um, is it's a lot less traumatic
yeah,
than it used to be, and the holding on is not as deep as it
or
used to be. And really, at the end of the day, I think it's better for everyone, because I think, again, we should be comfortable with the people that we spend most of our time with
yeah,
or put most of our energy in those relationships.
yeah. I don't know about years and years ago when I used to have relationships, if they wanted to split up or you want, it's such a drama. It was always such a drama, and either you or the other person maybe wanted revenge, or you wanted to say your piece and you wanted to get it all out and you wanted to hurt. Sometimes there was so much drama. And I don't know if that's
Yeah.
an age thing, just as we get older. It's like, I can't be bothered with all of that, or it is parts of our spiritual awareness that we just let go easier.
Well,
Maybe
it's
a combination.
I think it's probably a little bit of a combination. And I just think too that's just possibly some of the vibration that's being offered um, in the world right now is to allow that to change in a different way.
Yeah, evolution.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, evolution. So, how's your podcast going?
It's going really well. We have some really interesting guests.
Mhm.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed getting to know Trevor, who is the host of Haunting Live. He's done a tremendous job over the years um, creating a show, and I'm thankful that he uh, chose to bring me on as a co-host. It's an opportunity that I didn't think was going to ever happen.
Oh,
So
doesn't happen very
it's
often.
really, yeah, it's really neat, and being able to chat and get to know um, so many people is pretty cool. And at this point, I mean, I've only been co-host for a couple months. I have a list of books I want to read so bad, and not enough time, and other podcasts I want to listen to. It's again, it's a fascinating world, and we deal with all things that are psychic, mediumship, paranormal. So it's just so interesting every single time.
It is. It's so awesome that you can just deep dive into somebody else's life who's having those sorts of experiences and hear about them. And it's it's fascinating. And there's so many, the more you learn, the more you see that there's a connection in everything. And the more
Yep.
you hear about the patterns that go on within either paranormal or cryptid or whatever it is, synchronicities, matrix glitches. Also, I am listening to those at the moment like crazy. Matrix glitches.
So we and there's things that I thought maybe were only me. And again, this is why we talk about it.
Yeah.
So we had a guest on, and he's an author, um, and he was talking about his book. But then I looked into some of his other books, and one of his books is about mist, and mists surrounding paranormal activity, including like people going into a mist and coming out at a different location or time. But I thought it was weird because for me, there are times where the world looks
Different.
foggy.
Okay.
No, it looks like I have smoke in the room or a fog, and I will actually stop if I'm with someone. I will stop and be like, uh, "Is it foggy over there?" I mean, this is a legitimate question, and oftentimes that is then followed by um, a mediumship type experience.
Yeah.
I remember my friend, I went over to visit her once, and I looked outside, and across the street it looked foggy, and I was like, "Oh shoot! Hey, is it foggy across the street?" Oh, okay, nope. Great, something's going to happen,
About to
and it's going to
happen.
have some sort of connection. And I visited her not that long later, like a few hours or the next day, and I'm standing on her driveway, and I very clearly see a man at the end of the driveway. And I recognized him because I did a reading for her previously. I mean, friends of mediums, we just, pass along information.
Uh,
Um, And I was just like, just so you know, there's so and so that's standing, right there. And she's like, uh-oh. Well, her one of her pets actually got sick and passed away a few hours later.
wow.
And it was just, there was mist, a lot of mist. More than just that, across the street, it happened again. Um, as I was approaching the house when her pet was passing away. Um, and then from that mist, there's people and animals that no longer have physical bodies
Hmm.
that were coming up. And I found that that's actually a thing for me, where sometimes there's this mist that appears, and then that's often connected to some sort of mediumship type experience that is often a little stronger or more meaningful. Sometimes before mediumship readings, I get this mist, and I didn't think it was a real thing for many people to experience, but apparently enough people have experienced it that there's a book
Yeah.
written about it.
On it. That's that's perfect.
But it's like real fog. Like I'll see like real real fog.
Wow.
Like in my like I've checked to make sure things weren't burning in my oven because
Mm.
it's a real fog in my house or
Wow.
outside or just in a random location. I got my eyes checked, apart from needing glasses, and now I'm old, so reading glasses, there's no reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no medical explanation for it.
But yeah, there never is. It's awesome that, again, maybe that comes with experience, that you're now noticing the fog before something happens as a prelude to something coming up. It's like it's that call to action. It's like, oh, get into gear. Something's about to
Yep.
change. Something's about to happen. I get it with numbers. I get it a lot
Mm-hmm.
with numbers. Um, and I will also get it with, I've been seeing a lot of owls lately. There is an owl thing with me. I don't know what that is. Well, I do, but um, a really strange one I used to find, and it wasn't particular, and this is not spiritual. It's not particularly spiritual. If I was about to have an argument with somebody, or I was about to get mad at something, or someone was about to get mad at me, or there was something unfolding, I would either cut my finger, I would drop a glass, or break a plate, um, or even hear um, like discordant music in my head. And as
Oh my
soon as
gosh.
any of those things happened within the next few minutes or the next hour or so, that would happen. There'd be an argument, or I'd have a phone call that something crazy had happened, or so it's the same. It's very different, but
It's the
it's
same
the same
pattern.
sort of thing. It's the pattern
Yeah.
of something's about to happen. Get ready.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is.
And
And I think
yeah,
whatever
and this,
up on, whatever you pick up on and recognize as, oh my God, they'll keep doing that. So with you and the fog or the smoke, they're going to keep doing that because they know that you recognize that as a prelude to something.
It's
And that
wild.
it
It's wild. Oh my
is wild
gosh.
and it is
It just,
crazy. And I think I said on your show, it's like, oh, I'm used to it now. And there is a part of me that is used to things happening, but then there's still things happen that you just go, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? How did you universe? How did you make that happen? How did you know to do that?
well, it, because we're noticing patterns, but then, how do we manifest some of these amazing things? Like,
I'm still pretty
it's
good
like, can I
at
manifest the
manifesting.
fog right now?
Can you what?
Like, I'd love, can I manifest the fog right now? Like, it would be great for me to manifest the fog and be like, oh wow, I
Oh,
want
okay.
to do
Yeah.
that, but
So
I can't. So yeah, it's just universe. Like,
it's the
it's pretty
universe.
spectacular. Even the fog. It's yes, it's communication to me, but it's also it's it's cool.
Yeah.
It's just cool.
Yeah. I think we can manifest 3D things. So we can manifest money if we need it, or we can manifest whatever it is that we're looking for. Um, spiritually, I think it's on their timeline. It's on their part of it will be our timeline, but we are not aware of that timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the
Well, we
things
can't see the big picture.
we can't see it. We can't see them. We didn't get the memo on that one.
Yeah.
We didn't get the memo. But on a 3D basis, I think we can manifest. Can't manifest for other people, but we can manifest for ourselves what we need. And I always found it's which annoys me to a certain extent. It's always exactly what I need. It's never any more. It's just exactly what I need at the time. I'd like some change on top of that, but it's like exactly
I, I'd like some change too.
some change on top,
Oh my
just a
god.
little bit of surplus on top of that. But it for me, it always seems just exactly what I need at the time. But going back to, so I have been listening to, I found some channel that does glitch in the matrix stories, which a lot of them when I listen to me, they're synchronicities. Do you know what I mean? So to me,
Yeah.
the synchronicities to other people, they're like glitches in the matrix, but it's all the same type of type of thing. They've got them on here with like rain sounds on some YouTube channels, so you can actually go to sleep listening to them, which is really cool.
Oh my gosh.
But it's like a
Okay.
monotone voice as well. It's like monotone all the way through, so it's just like, okay, I'm gonna sleep with that. Um, but have you found, or are there times when your glitches, your synchronicities are just off the charts?
Uh, yes. Um,
Examples?
yeah.
Yeah,
So, okay. Okay, for glitch in the matrix that I
is what
don't
I'm
think
digging down
is
into it.
necessarily a synchronicity. I have gone out into my parking lot. I live in a condo, and I've gone out into the parking lot, and there have been entire rows of cars that have been the same color. And I'm just like, this is a glitch in the matrix because I know that, we only have generally this many of, like, I don't know if anybody actually owns a white vehicle in the condo, but I've shown up and I've counted 15
White cars.
white vehicles in a row, and I've actually taken a photograph of it and sent it to my partner because it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And the same thing out on the, I'll sit up on the patio, and sometimes it'll be like multiple cars of all the same color, and that's all that's coming through. And then you can think, you know what, I would be really happy if a red vehicle came up. And then all of a sudden you get a red vehicle. So, I mean, it's some interesting glitchy type, maybe not necessarily synchronicity. Um, I have, through some periods of stress, and I would ask a spirit for guidance and for assistance. Um, I've had music show up on my radio that was exactly the message that I needed. So I was, um, you know, I'm scared of getting my blood drawn, so I was going to go get my blood drawn, and I'm getting into my car. I had just gone to the doctor. They were checking. There might have been something that was potentially misfiring in my body. So I was a little nervous, and I get into my car, and all of a sudden I turn on my radio, and it's ha 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 ha, staying alive, staying alive. The wildest thing. I mean, not something that is going to be on that radio station very often. And then after the song was over, well, I hope you guys like that blast from the past. So it
Uh-huh.
wasn't even a typical feature of the radio station.
Yeah.
I had gotten an oracle deck, and within that same week, um, I was driving with my former partner, and there was a stag on the side of the road. And I had just looked and drawn a stag card from that oracle deck, either that day or the day before. And then there was a stag just standing on the side of the road, again, just reinforcing exactly what at that moment I was thinking about, because I remember thinking about that question I had asked and gotten that answer, and then I'm thinking about it while we were driving, and the stag was right there, and that was pretty pretty amazing. Those numbers that you talk about, insane. I can't tell you how many times I've seen 57, 75, 97. Those tend to be numbers. 17. Those four sets, constant, just constant numbers. And the funny thing is that 17 is a number that occurs in the family as well. So
Mhm.
not just for me. And it doesn't always show up at specific times, but it shows up if I am asking for signs. So it's not like it's a warning that something's coming up or a congratulations. It's just kind of like, hey, are you guys around? Are you with me? Can you give me
Yeah.
some signs? And it's always these bad boys.
Yeah.
Um,
I totally I agree with the
I was
go on.
I was feeling I was going through some emotional stuff as I was thinking about something,
Mhm.
you know, pastimes and family, you know, my kids when they were little or whatnot, while at a cave area here in Ontario. So it's kind of like one of those, it's an attraction. So I was with my current partner and two of his kids and my youngest, and I was thinking about, you know, family trips when my kids were small. And you know, I hadn't spoken to one of my children in some time, and I'm going down to this water area where the kids are looking at fossils in the rock, and this little guy comes up to me, hey, look what I found. Don't know him. I'm like, oh, that's really neat. I think it's this kind of fossil because I might know a couple things about fossils. And he just starts chatting with me, and I'm just looking at fossils and, you know, whatever. And he looks at me, and goes, my name is, and it is just happens to be the child I was thinking about, which is not a common name. I was just like, well, that's pretty amazing. I'm gonna cry, so I'm gonna step away now. Um, but it is just those small things where it's, you know, somebody gives me their name and it's the name of someone I had been thinking about or needed to contact, or um, and it's oftentimes they're not common names.
Hmm.
Um, so yes, some synchronicities,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I find that the more I've meditated, the more I've done spiritual work, the more oracle cards I pull asking questions for myself, the
More
more it seems to produce the
absolutely.
synchronicities.
Yeah. Absolutely. I get a lot of people asking, well, how do I spiritually advance and what do I do? And my first answer is meditate.
Yeah.
The more you meditate, the higher your vibration goes, the higher your vibration goes, the more connection you have. Your guide, your angels, they can only come sort of halfway down. You've got to go up and you've got to meet them. You've got to meet them halfway, as they can't reach you. They're always there. It's just you
Yeah.
can't reach you to a point where you have connection with them in that way unless you're doing something. Even reading spiritual stuff, listening to spiritual stuff, furthering your spiritual education helps. Whether it's listening to a
I
podcast,
was
whether it's reading, whatever, it helps. It's
I
having
was
fun
reading
for
one of Teresa Caputo's books.
it. Hmm.
The number of ghost type activities that happened in my home while I was
You were
reading
doing
this book,
it.
that were experienced not just by me, but by others in the home, was incredible. And then I put the book down, and the frequency and the extent of the experiences actually diminished.
So I
Not
think
completely because the house was haunted, but
well, we
definitely ramped up.
we talk about us being vessels or conduits for our guides or spiritual energy or something. And literally when you said that you're reading the book, I just see you as this conduit, this vessel. So the energy of what you're reading is just coming through you and then it's just manifesting around you. You've given it an out. But just by reading it, just by reading it. And I get that. I get that a lot. Some of that I wanted to mention you were talking about deer before. Uh,
Yes.
a few weeks ago, Robbie and I were coming home from wherever we were coming home from, and it was dark, and we're coming down the back roads to get to our place. He's driving. I'm sat there, I don't know what I'm doing, sat in the passenger seat looking at my phone, looking at Telegram, something, and the lights started flashing inside the car. So you know your inside lights that only come on
Yeah.
when you open the car door or when you deliberately switch it, they start flashing. And we're both like, what? Why, what's wrong with the
Oh my
car? Is
God.
the car about to break down? Why are the lights flashing? We automatically slowed down because it's like something's going on. Within a minute of that happening, we rounded a corner and there was two magnificent, beautiful deer stood in the middle of the road, just staring at us.
No.
And I turned to Robbie. I was like, "Stop! Just stop the car now." Um,
Wow.
and afterwards, when and they stared at us for a few seconds and then trotted off back off the road into the trees. And then I suddenly realized if those lights hadn't been flashing in the car, the interior lights, it wouldn't have got our attention. We would have sped around that corner and hit them,
Oh
or
my gosh.
hit them. So, and another one actually thinking about that one, and this was only a couple of weeks ago. So we've got all this snow, as you have. It's all starting
Mm-hmm.
to melt. Um, we'd come home. We've now got three dogs instead of two dogs, which is crazy. But The front door leads onto a little patio, a little deck, which has got baby gates
Okay.
on that we let the dogs out onto the front, so they're not running off or anything. I try to open the front door and I can't. It's just locked. And I'm pulling on the doorknob, and we have had problems with it before, but like this time it was
Okay.
not opening. I'm like, I can't, and I'm getting really frustrated, and I want to let the dogs out. I can't open the bloody front door. We'd already bought a new doorknob, but Robbie hadn't put it on yet. So I'm like, for fuck's sake, we need to change this because I can't open the door. Robbie comes over um to try and open it and can't do it. About a minute later, all the ice from the top of the roof fell directly down onto the patio, onto the deck. And we're
Oh
talking
my gosh.
big chunks like this, really big, chunky, massive piece of ice because we have a warmer on the heater on the top of the roof, which gradually melts
Okay.
it. It was coming down in big, like a big long brick. It came crashing down. Had the dogs been out there, had I been able to open the door, they wouldn't have survived. They just wouldn't have done. It
Oh
would have
my
killed them
God.
outright. And it's
Wow.
I know it's all of these little
Oh, wow.
I know that chill, hair standing up on my arm.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, wow, okay, wow. So we
Yikes.
get these things happening to us that, and do they happen to people that are not spiritually awake and they just don't even realize and don't even see? Probably,
Mm-hmm.
probably. But they just, because they're in their own vibration frequency, they just don't even acknowledge or understand or see it, just don't even see it to start with, these things. And it's like being in, it's magical.
It is.
It is magical. It's like
It
being
is.
in a magical world. You can look at your life or what's going on in your life and go, oh my God, it's terrible or it's dramatic or would, but this magical part of it just makes everything worthwhile. I don't think I could
Yes.
now not be spiritual or not. I couldn't live in that other world.
No.
And maybe when they talk about we're going into 5D, maybe this is 5D. Maybe this is what the fifth dimension is. Being able to live in this world, but also experience and be aware of um, the spiritual, magical side of things and have an extra sense to be able to see those things. So when we say we're all going into 5D and we're all moving up in vibration, this is what it is. I think this is what it is.
It's living in two.
We're living in two worlds. We're living in two worlds.
Honestly, I don't want to, but I guess. I guess that's part of the plan.
Yeah, I want to live more and more in the other world,
Mm-hmm.
opposed to
Mm-hmm.
this one that involves taxes and shopping
All
and
that other
all the other
garbage.
stuff.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's
Yeah.
this is part of the split. But the further we go with it, the more normalized it becomes to us.
Well, there's another thing, and it happened on Instagram apparently like the other week, where there was a period of time where some people were reporting seeing extremely violent content or graphic content going through their news feeds.
Oh,
Yeah, mine was normal, so I don't know. But then I heard some speculation within some spiritual communities saying that possibly there was a difference in vibration or um,
Well,
What have you?
yeah, the algorithms of whatever you're watching on YouTube or whatever, it will match whatever you've just been watching or so whatever. So I don't understand how they can suddenly get that from a 3D from a spiritual perspective. All right, let's
I
look at
mean, it certainly would bring people further down into
it.
the 3D as opposed to bring them up
So
into the
maybe
5D.
maybe were they all spiritual people that were seeing this? No, so it was just a
I
whole.
have not heard of any spiritual person that's heard that saw it. Not at least in my world.
So maybe um the darker
Keeping people
side,
down.
yeah, the darker side of things could see maybe they were about to start rising, and it was a no, you stay down. We're going to show you some
Yeah.
nasty content, bring your vibration down. Because I used to get that a lot when I was going through the awakening. When I had the Kundalini, I got that a
Yeah.
lot. And it's scary and it's nasty and all the rest of it. Eventually, you sort of realize what's going on and you can get a handle on it and go, ah, no, that's not happening. Not doing that. Not going there. You're not bringing my frequency down. But maybe that's what it was. Or maybe they were mirroring something and something deep within them was matching that vibration of the videos that were coming through and it was coming
Yeah.
out. But either way, it's if that was the way, then that's also a way for them to realize there's something going on subconsciously that maybe they need to clear. And that was the universe's way of
Whatever it is, it's crazy. It's crazy. Whatever that was. I'm happy not to have seen it.
yeah.
I saw some clips afterwards of people like this is the stuff that came through, but personally mine was normal. I had to be told about it.
I don't even want to go. I don't want to go there. What was it? Just like
Like fights and stuff.
fighting.
Like physical violence, yeah. But then again with some of the stuff that's going on in the 3D world, I mean that could just also
It could be the normal.
be conditioning
Yeah,
for what the lower vibrations want to happen
yeah,
in the future,
yeah,
normalizing it.
yeah. It could be, and we've been conditioned to that all our lives. Everything we watch,
Yeah,
every film that we've ever watched, everything is all conditioned, has programmed us
yeah,
to think that
and
fighting is
again that
okay, violence.
and again that programming is just meant to keep people in that not thinking, but also lower vibration perspective.
Yeah,
There's a huge push to keep people lower
yeah,
in vibration. It's
absolutely.
not just that the whole human, it's easier to control, but it's also an energetic, spiritual aspect
Yeah,
to it.
yeah. There's definitely a
And
spiritual aspect to it as well,
yeah,
and some of it a test as we spiritually become aware. Again, I went through it at the beginning for a good few years because I wasn't getting it. Um, but sometimes I think it's a test of faith. It's a test of helping you to become aware of how powerful you actually are, that you don't need to give in to fear, that you can actually control that sort of thing because you're stronger there. So there's probably a whole gamut of reasons why it happens. That might be one of them. That
yeah,
it's some sort of test. It's definitely the dark side of things because we live in a world of duality, trying to keep you down as well. So if somebody's getting to that point where it's like, no, let's just scare the living daylights out of you and you'll just hopefully go back to sleep, not pay attention to
Hmm.
anything that might be going on. And I know that you've been through all of that as well.
Yep, that I have. That I have. Not maybe to some of the extent that you have, but in my own way.
Have you?
Until I tell stories, and then it sounds different when
Yeah,
it's spoken out loud,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I'm sure even the fact that we're talking like this is going to set us off for the next week or so. There'll be numbers popping up and there'll be lights going and there'll be this and that and deer in the middle of the road and downloads and all sorts of all sorts of things. I did have a little download a couple of days ago. Um,
Oof.
so I'm just gonna throw it out there and see. I know it's right because it was a download, but we always talk about we hear tones in our ears. We see synchronicities, we
Yeah.
see numbers, and most of us with numbers, you can go and look up the angel numbers and see what it means, and it usually pertains to whatever is going on in your life at the moment. But then there's other times when things happen and you go, what, why, what's going on? You logically still want to try and take it apart and put it back together and figure out the answer.
Hmm.
I know me as an air sign still wants to do that. So we get to the point where we think, okay, we're seeing numbers and we're hearing tones and we're hearing bits of music when we turn the radio on in the car, and it's just our woo. It's just our woo side. But what if all the codes, the keys, the tones, the vibrations, synchronicities, everything that we experience, although we don't always understand it on our level consciously, it's taken into our subconscious.
Yeah.
Our subconscious understands it. It's taken into our brain's data banks. As it's doing that, it's upgrading and evolving our DNA. The little keys, the little codes, and then once it's passed through to us, we can then pass it through to others or pass it on to others as a vibration of us, as a frequency of us. So
Yeah.
somebody else being in close proximity to us, um, it's passed on to them. Those little codes, those little keys go into them, and then at some certain point, it's stored in them for it to be released when their alarm clock goes off. When they're,
Ah. Okay.
you know where I'm
Yeah.
going with this?
Hmm.
So we can be stood next to somebody with our little vibration, doesn't seem to be doing anything for anybody else, but 5 years down the line, something that they energetically picked up from us, a key, a code, a tone, whatever, helps to kick off theirs, their awakening, their understanding of certain things.
That could be it. That could definitely be a thing, because we do know that just our physical presence in a space impacts other people on a subconscious level. And it's hard to realize it when we're talking about positive attributes. It's a lot easier to realize it when we think negative attributes. So if somebody is grouchy, you might be feeling okay, but then before someone even walks into the room, you all of a sudden you feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable, and then someone walks in and with a smile on their face, but they're in a really bad mood. A lot of people feel like their own mood changes
Yeah.
at that point. It's harder to realize when it's something that's positive. It's much easier to notice when it's a negative um, experience.
Yeah.
Although that negative stuff isn't necessarily negative. There's blessings in it. Um, so I can see that, and I can see that on a level that we don't necessarily understand having an
Yeah.
impact
Yeah.
um,
On a brain
on
level, we don't
bodies,
see,
on a brain level. Yeah.
we're not.
And we also know that, we're picking up on pheromones of other
Yes.
people, and, women are syncing up with their cycles, unknowing from each other. So why would we say that this is not possible, that it's impacting
Yeah.
people on a much deeper level that's going to be felt
Yeah.
at a different time?
Yeah. I think it's being felt and done on a level that we don't understand and see. So hopefully, because I'm understanding that in the future, I won't sit there going, well, what's that tone? And I don't understand what that tone is and all of this. It's just keys, it's just codes, it's just things. And then we quantum transference, quantum transference. We're on a quantum level, putting that vibration out to to others there. There was a
And
there were last year, I don't know which eclipse it was. It was either a full moon eclipse or a solar eclipse. It was around June, July last year. I
okay.
don't know if I told you this. I'm having a little nap in the afternoon and I'm lying on my left side and I've got my hand sort of here next to me on the pillow. And as I woke up, I'm looking at my hand and there was another hand overlaid over mine, which was just full of, it was my hand, but it was another hand overlaid onto my hand, full of hieroglyphs, full of stuff, like
Oh my gosh.
like it had been hennaed. It was that color of
Yeah.
henna. I don't know if they were Egyptian symbols. I don't know if they were I don't know what they were. They were something all over my hand, only for a split second. And I was like, "What the hell was that?" And I mentioned it
Huh.
to somebody, and she went, "Oh, you've been given keys." And I was like, "Cool. What have I been given keys to? Tell me, tell me." She's like, "I don't know." But maybe that's like a physical um picture of how we, and maybe that's why I've had this download now. Maybe as a result of that, that's the meaning that's eventually come through and dropped into my little brain.
Yeah.
Because of that, we're getting codes, we're getting keys in different multiple ways on a quantum level that we can then transfer without us knowing um, onto others. And maybe that's why we're dotted everywhere. I mean, you're not my next door neighbor. That'd be awesome
No.
if you were, but you're not.
Yeah.
It's like
I
everybody
mean,
is dotted everywhere all
you've
over.
got more snow than I do, so I'm happy we're not
You're
next door
happy where you
neighbors.
are. I can't believe the amount of snow we had this year. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. And now we've got it melting or starting to melt. So now there'll be
No.
flooding. Yeah.
See, and you know what? Maybe that's also why we have those happen chance meetings. Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden we meet Nancy that we haven't seen in the grocery store, and she's only passing through town, and we have like that brief 5-minute interaction is but there's no rhyme or reason to it. She didn't bring anything that we can think of into our life. We didn't give anything to her apart from just meeting each other. Is that possibly one of the reasons
Yeah.
why we need to
Absolutely.
transfer some of that?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah. And we
and
just
I
go,
also like that you brought up another really good point. As someone that floats in the psychic mediumship, metaphysical, paranormal world, how often is it that we get some sort of piece of information It could be numbers. It could be, a deer on the side of the road. And you're like, okay, well, that's information.
but we don't know.
What do you want me to do? What
Yeah,
does it
what am I
mean?
doing
What do
with
you want me
this?
to do with it? Like seriously? Thanks, but no thanks. Can you give me instructions next time? Like very clear.
Yeah,
I
speak
can't tell you how many
English.
times I've talked to my guides just being like, seriously, I asked for a yes or a no answer, and you
Yeah.
butterfly, rainbow. Like, great. What do you want me to do with that?
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I think that's what it is. I think it's we're getting the answers on a subconscious level, which helps us to evolve.
Okay, can I tell my one of my favorite subconscious level stories?
Absolutely.
And I haven't told this in like years,
Okay.
years. Um,
Right, get my coffee.
so um, I'm just going to start with all of my kids are pretty well connected spiritually.
Mhm.
Um, it's just kind of stuff that they experience. My eldest, not as much, but he's had some pretty significant experiences. My middle son, oh my gosh, far more gifted than I am. That
Mhm.
kid, um, I don't think he thought he was lucky, but I think he was very lucky in terms of the stuff that he's experienced. My daughter, not to the degree that her older brother um, has experienced, but she's pretty connected as well. So my middle son was still in elementary school, under 10 years old, I believe. He had just had a bath and like he came to sit with me in my room and all of like we're just sitting on the bed just hanging out and it's like before bedtime and I hear some sort of like chirping voice in my ear, like really really quick, high pitched, um, and I understood it completely. Like I heard it, but I couldn't repeat any of it because it went too fast. But like on a soul level, I understood exactly what this had said. I didn't say anything. Absolutely just kept my mouth shut. I was just like, okay, that is something a little paranormal. I'm with this kid that's, under 10 years old. I'm not going to influence him. I'm not going to freak him out at all. I don't need that. I want to sleep tonight. I'm not going to freak. Hey, did you hear the ghost noise? Nope, not doing
No.
it. This little dude looks at me, goes, Mom, did you hear the voice? And I went, No.
Oh boy.
What did it say? And he goes, I don't know. I understood it, but I can't repeat it.
Perfect.
So he had the exact same experience as I did, but he's not worried about frightening me. He's curious about his world. So he asked, and I was like, well, that's really interesting. I said, do you have any idea? He goes, no, but I know it's good.
Hmm.
And that was kind of the end of it. Um, so again, it's like a download, except it was like
It's
an
one you
audible
actually,
download that we both heard, we
yeah.
both understood on some other level. It
Uh-huh.
was not frightening, um, but we neither one of us could repeat what it said,
Yeah.
but we just knew
You just knew.
on some level that it was good.
Yeah. I mean, this download about quantum transference that we've just spoken about, it came through like that in my head, but I could
Yeah.
speak it. I could write it down.
So you're lucky.
Yeah, but it doesn't, but again, it's like we've just been saying, it's not like that every time.
No.
You got it, but you couldn't speak it. I get them and I can speak them. But then we get others that we don't even understand ourselves what they mean. The rainbow, the butterfly, the tone in the ear, the specific numbers. that we're seeing. Sometimes we do after the fact. We'll go, oh, that was what that was. But most of the time, we don't. It's just it's a key, it's a code, it's a frequency that's coming in. I was thinking the other day about Sasquatch. Sasquatch. Um, one of the last videos I did on my YouTube up until what, 4 years ago, because I obviously stopped for quite a while. Um, was an interview with Mike Patterson. So if you've ever have you heard of Mike Patterson? He's Sasquatch
Yes, but
Terrier.
I can't think of.
Sasquatch
Okay.
Terrier.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's been having
Okay.
Sasquatch sightings for years at his friend's Dwayne's house, cabin. I did not ask for the interview with him. Somebody else came into my life and literally talked me into, let's do an interview at your place with this Mike Patterson. Um, she had to talk me into it because I didn't know who on earth he was.
Yeah.
Knew nothing about Sasquatch, knew nothing. So he comes over. The woman that's organised it has gone and done a big buffet, and she's got some beers in for Mike, and she's really putting it all out there, all at our place. And we've got a woman that's got a bloody boom microphone and fancy camera and films it, and I'm like, cool. I'll go along with this. This is cool. While we're doing all that, when we're chatting afterwards, he's brought all his plastic casts of the footprints that he's picked up, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at these footprints in plastic cast and going, wow, that's huge. That's really awesome. And he also shows us a picture of Sasquatch. He's got a picture of Sasquatch's face over a fence. Um, she took a few years ago. He's finally showed it on YouTube now, but when I saw it a few years ago, he hadn't shown anybody. We were one of the first people to see it.
Oh, wow.
But isn't it strange or not that I do this interview with him, and then within a few months I'm led into another situation where I physically do see Sasquatch, meet Sasquatch, whatever. Did the universe deliberately set up that meeting with Mike Patterson to give me an awareness, because I didn't even know what one was, as a heads
Yeah.
up that you're going to have this? Or did Mike Patterson's, oh, okay, let's go a step further. Mike Patterson has got the keys and the codes within him for Sasquatch because he's already interacted with Sasquatch. So did he pass those codes on to me? And that's why I went and had those experiences.
That way you could have that energy,
That energy
know that
was
energy.
passed on. Yeah,
Yeah. So you'd know that energy signature. So it'd become, you'd have awareness to it. Okay.
yeah,
That that makes sense. I heard of another medium who spoke about jinn, never seen jinn before, but was in a part of the world where people will see them often,
yeah.
even just lay people, people that are not claiming to be psychic or mediums. They see jinn, and apparently there's a whole bunch of different looks to them. She had no idea. She learnt about them a little bit while she was there. Someone had pointed out, oh, there's a jinn over there. She couldn't see it, but again, she learnt about them, and then
Uh-huh.
she was able to see the same ones that they were seeing. It's like they
Yeah,
passed on some information. I wasn't at all into fairies. Like, they were cute, they were pretty. I liked them in storybooks.
yeah.
Um, Like that was always like I would love to find mushrooms and then see some cute little tiny fairy.
Yeah.
But again, I thought it was all fairy tales.
Yeah.
I was in a group learning mediumship, and some people said that they had at some point seen them. I thought it was BS.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was just like, you know what? There's a level to what I would
It's a
believe
level.
people
What
say.
do we? Yeah.
And I think that's jumped over the cliff and it's floating around in a bog somewhere. I'm not interested. That sounds like BS.
Yeah.
Um, Not too long after interacting with said people, I walk into my living room and I see the shadow. It's just gray. It's about the size of a basketball. It looks like a Barbie body. These giant butterfly wings very slowly moving across my living room. And there's no one in this living room.
Uh,
There's no light that's being casted. We had no fairies,
yeah.
Barbies, nothing that were hanging around that would have cast that shadow,
Yeah.
let alone made the wings flap and fly across the living room and disappear into the wall. Like, I think you might be onto something
Yeah.
because even if mentally you think something could very well be BS, which I thought when I saw the fairy, like when people were talking to the fairies, oh, I saw one, or oh, I did this and that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's like, yeah, whatever.
I don't know what you're on. I don't want any part
I might want
of
some.
it, no part of it at all. And then actually to have experienced it, um, it's a completely different scenario. So perhaps it is something with
Something to do
they
with
had
energy transference.
something to do. Yeah.
Yeah. The ones that had already seen the fairies have got the keys to the fairies, the codes within them.
Mm-hmm.
They've brought it over to you, and now you're seeing them. Or is it because it's mentally, you're thinking about it as well? Did you manifest it?
God, no. God, no.
Okay, so throw that out the window.
That's living. I don't want nothing to do with this. There's a certain level of nuts that I'm willing to claim, and that's not it.
Was you're not claiming
I'm
that?
in Canada.
Not me.
We don't do
No.
fairies.
Although we did do fairies a few weeks ago when I did that interview with you.
Yeah,
We did
yeah.
end up talking about fairies. I
We
have
did
got,
talk about fairies.
that's your fault.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That photo you sent
maybe
me after is yeah.
you've energy transferred back over to me because I have not. That video I did on fairies was like 8 years ago. Forgotten all about it, not thought about it until that. So you started that one, and then we did the look at these fairies and let's spot the fairies and
It came back. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, it's genuinely like even if you maybe are not willing to mentally or consciously entertain a
yeah,
certain thought,
yeah. I
there's a yeah,
yeah, the Sasquatch thing.
key.
Yeah, the Sasquatch. I'm looking at plaster casts and a picture, and I'm not getting my head around. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's yeah, consciously. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of things out there, and maybe there is, but I've not personally seen it. So in my world, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen
Yeah,
UFOs, I've seen aliens, I've seen all of that, but Sasquatch doesn't exist because I've not seen it. But then you do, and then and
yeah,
fairies.
yeah, and it's just a completely different
Yeah,
level because then you have to sit back and go like, okay, now I really have to think about is this in my wheelhouse? Is this like now I have to change my belief system? Do I have to change my belief system? Am I actually nuts? Um, Probably a little bit of everything. I think I am at this point, maybe a little
yeah.
nuts.
I think. I think the subject or the the width or the scope of where we go with the spirituality is probably limitless. It's probably limitless. There's a whole bunch of stuff we really don't know. Um, but it is, it's our brains are just they just stretch a little bit more every day. Didn't believe in that. Now we do because we've seen them. Now we're going to move on to this. I said to you yesterday that I'm looping at the moment. So we're in 2025 just, and I seem to be watching things and relearning about things that I was learning about during my awakening in 2012, which was a lot of it was ETs and a lot of it was interdimensionals, extra dimensionals, and everything else. So I feel like I'm doing a 12-year loop because my thoughts are going back there. I am not paying much attention to Sasquatch at the moment. Stopped watching all the podcasts, stopped. So is that what's going to happen next? Because I'm now refocusing on, and I did have extra dimensional experiences on a really large scale when I woke up back then. So am I unlocking the keys to that? Has somebody transferred that energy onto me in order to go through something?
Is there something that perhaps you weren't able to fully understand at that point that you now have um, a working knowledge about, or that you're more likely to understand if presented with it again?
Maybe, maybe, yeah, because there was a lot I didn't get back then that maybe again I'm being when you get into these trains of thoughts, is it because that's going to happen soon? So you're just being primed for it.
Or
So,
what did you miss? What weren't you
oh,
fully able to appreciate at that time?
and will that come round again so that you fully understand it this time?
Fully, and maybe can take in some other lessons.
Let's not do that.
You have fun with that, dude. I don't want those keys. Those keys you can
Those
keep.
particular keys, some of them are like, no, no,
Yeah.
I have enough going on without that. But
Yeah, I'm
hey,
not coming to see you on Saturday because I don't want those keys. You keep those keys.
well, I was just about to say, talking about energy transference and stuff, you've still got to come with me to see Sasquatch.
I told you I'm gonna pat seat Sasquatch. That's the goal. So I'm gonna pat Sasquatch. Honestly, every time I say that I'm gonna Sasquatch, when I really think like when I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm
About
gonna
that.
pat you, I get from that, like from just that thought of patting Sasquatch. So I think he's saying no, but I'm saying like no. I would like to see your hair silky or is it more like a Brillo pad? I'd like to understand this
Silky,
experience.
silky. Or it was when I that
Don't
one.
eat me like that kind of it.
Yeah, well, we're not even going to have that thought come into our head
Okay.
there. And oh, all right. So we're talking about getting the keys and the codes from other people in order to have our own experiences and quantum transference and all the rest of it. So going back to Mike Patterson, had he come round and done an interview that he'd met Sasquatch and Sasquatch nearly took his head off and went chasing him through the woods and this, that, and the other and frightened the living daylights out of him, as opposed to he has a really positive interaction or interactions with him, would that have transferred? So would I,
Hmm.
if he was if that would I have gone on to have a really scary, nasty experience because he had, or because that energy that he's transferring? had that energy in it.
Your personal energy has to play into it.
It's got to. It's got to be filtered. It has to filter
Yeah.
through us.
Because yeah, because we interact with somebody's personal energy.
Yeah,
So sound has to interact with your personal energy,
that's
just
true.
like you have to interact with his.
But there's got to be no fear. Our own,
Yeah.
our own personal energy has to be, there is no fear here in order for it to be okay.
Well,
No, no, because no,
no, no fear, but discernment. Because we can't end up being one of those videos of people going to pat a bear because they have good energy. And the bear's going to pick
yeah,
up that good. I've seen far
dude,
too many of these.
that's yeah,
What is it that they're often called as like Caucasian people Caucasianing? Like we
occasionally.
we have to use some
There's boundaries.
terms.
There's boundaries.
Yeah, there's boundaries,
Yeah.
discernment. You got to kind
Okay.
of like understand what's going on. But I have heard that, perhaps Sasquatch does interact differently with people that are curious over, people that are like hunting or have like
Yeah.
other
Other
pensions.
intention.
So, I mean, with a lot of people, with quite a few people from whom I've spoken with about the topic, there is a large number of people that think he's more interdimensional or not necessarily just a giant ape in the woods. So it makes sense if it's picking up a little bit more on energy and intention
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
just acting on like basic survival
Yeah.
mechanisms.
He's definitely interdimensional. Definitely. You don't put the lights with that and everything else, and he's not interdimensional. He's not purely physical at all. So
Well, then maybe we throw the intention out there that not only do I get to pat him, but he can teach us
yeah,
some of his ways.
that would be good.
I think,
That would
yeah.
be yeah, we will
I mean, I wouldn't mind traveling to a different time space to see what it's like.
as long as we can
Come
come
back
back.
here. As long as we can come back to this
Uh,
timeline.
yeah, as long as we know where
Uh,
the portal is.
mhm.
It's still behind us
Come
once
back
we
to
step
this
through. But yeah,
timeline.
it would be really cool.
That would be. It would be. Kind of learn how to use those things, manipulate things,
Well,
the way he does.
I've heard enough stories about portals sitting in the middle of a field somewhere, and people walk through them and walk back. Now there is a lot of talk about maybe radiation being attached to portals, so it's maybe not always good for our human body. People tend to
Uh,
get a little bit sick.
I mean, there's enough radiation
Well,
out in this world right now with
it's
all the cell towers, with our own radioactive devices we put in our pockets and our purses when
true.
we leave the home. Our government tracking devices that we carry with us.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
That's very true. Have you had, I want to hear more stories from you. So tell me, I don't know, your
What do
most
you want?
haunted story or your most paranormal story, your most Sasquatchy story. I don't, tell me something.
Uh, there's a lot because
I know that's it's hard to pinpoint.
woman, so I've got a lifetime of
Mhm.
stories. Um,
Did you go through an awakening or did you just not shut it down when you were a child?
I did shut it down to an extent, but not. I don't think completely.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm going to say I don't think I shut it down completely because I had some paranormal experiences happening when I was pregnant, and I was a teen mom, so that was like, you know, I've the time where most kids shut it down at that point in their lives. And then I had some deaths in the family that occurred while I was a late teenager, early 20s, that I was able to predict. So I've predicted all the major deaths and illnesses
Yeah.
in the family. And not just, oh, in my head, I think something's going to happen. So before these major players got passed away, and actually when my cousin, before she had her, or as she was having a stroke, um, there was always noises that happened upstairs. So I'd be like in the living room, either at my parents' house or my own home at one point, and it would sound like somebody is like running around upstairs, or a barrel being rolled around on the floor upstairs. Um, and there oftentimes be nobody upstairs, like
Yeah.
no human being. It was just me in the home. When I had a dog, um, I had an Aussie Shepherd that didn't like other people outside of those that are in the family. Like you could put your foot on the front lawn and she would bark. She just knew when somebody was like on the property. She was an incredible dog. So she would growl and bark when these noises were occurring upstairs, because she would recognize them as something that wasn't just a pipe or the wood shifting. And oftentimes I would be accompanied by a knowing of an age group and a gender of the person. So I would go next door to my mom and be like, can you just make sure people of this age group are okay? Because I'm hearing noises upstairs. And generally within like 2 weeks, somebody would pass away
Yeah.
that matched that description.
I did that.
Um, when my when one of my sisters passed away, I was given information that it was going to be a child. I thought it was one of my sons because I was made to feel like a toddler. My sister that passed away had severe cerebral palsy, so she really was like an infant. So
Your
she was
sister,
17 years old. Yeah, she was
we
17 years old.
we have
She
got
couldn't
so
walk.
many, we have got so many um we have got a synchronistic childhood, which is really strange. My brother had cerebral
uh,
palsy, couldn't walk, couldn't talk,
yeah,
right?
couldn't eat. She can't eat by herself. She couldn't eat by
By herself,
herself.
couldn't speak.
Wore
Yeah,
a diaper.
yes,
Um,
my brother
my
did.
mom had to help because
Oh, okay.
she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was maybe like 4 feet long. So she was short. Even by my family standards, because my great
How
grandmother was
old,
like, what, 5 feet?
how old was she when she
So she
passed
was little.
away? Oh, she was
She was
little.
17.
Oh,
No,
wow.
she was 17. Yeah.
Wow.
She was a
My
whole
my brother
17.
was 33 when he passed.
Okay. So I had my two boys. My mom was thinking about taking my boys and my sister, because she was the caregiver for my sister, up north, 10-hour drive.
Yeah.
No, in March, in February, March. So winter,
Yeah.
lots of snow. She's planning, and I got that the rolling upstairs and this feeling that it was going to be a child, and I was like, Mom, you really need to be careful, because I feel like something is going to happen to one of the boys. Like, I'm worried about it. Um, and she's like, okay, I will. And I think she actually took me seriously, because there was enough instances where this was correct. And this is something that's not uncommon on my maternal side of the family. So it's, you actually do pay attention. And then the trip went fine. They came home, everything, like there was no issues. And my mom's like, okay, well, maybe your system's off. Well, my sister got sick almost immediately um, after the trip. Normally she'd be better within 3 days. Like she was just miraculous in that way. Like never had a cold longer than 3 days. So 3 days in, and she's still sick, and my mom's a little bit worried. Well, wouldn't you know it, she passed away suddenly, like that fourth night. So unexpected, incredibly traumatic for the family. Um, 3 days after my sister passed. I'm upstairs in my house, which is next door to my parents' house. And I had a housemate that lived in the basement, and he was away in BC. So it was just me and my 2 kids and my dog that doesn't like people. And what do we hear? The boys are sleeping, and it's just me and the dog. We've just gone into bed, and we hear somebody walking downstairs. So I took my, we listened. The dog is growling, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna take my ball peen hammer that I have beside my bed, and we're gonna say hello to whoever's downstairs because I'm a little spicy.
I am.
So we run downstairs, and this is a time where there's like I had a flip phone, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
and a wall, and it wasn't up. My wall phone was not upstairs, and we weren't as connected to our cell phones as we are now. Um, and we run downstairs, check the entire downstairs. Everything was locked. Nothing was moved. No one was there. The dog's looking at me like, I'm sorry, I was going to eat someone, but there's no one here. Made it up back up the stairs, sat on the bed, and we start audibly hearing somebody walking, thumping downstairs again. And this time they start walking up the stairs to the second level. So
Okay.
all over again, we run down the stairs. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
Come back upstairs, same deal. Barely up on my bed when they start coming. And this time we let them go all the way up to almost the landing. When we go down, absolutely nobody there. Everything's still locked. I mean, I'm checking behind curtains. I'm checking every closet. Like I am doing a proper sweep. Do it again. Let it come up all the way up to the landing. Nobody, nobody there again. And at that point, when I'm doing my sweep, I have a gentleman I was seeing at that time. He calls me, and it's about midnight, and he calls me, and I'm like, he's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think somebody's broken into my house, but like
Yeah.
me
Everything's
and
fine.
the dog can't find it. Not a big deal." He's like, "I'm on my way." And he goes, "I was just at the hospital because my grandfather just died in my arms."
Oh, wow.
Um, so
Wow.
that was a pretty exciting night. My dog was convinced there was someone there. It was incredibly audible, unmistakable footsteps coming up the
Hmm.
stairs. And it happened, they would start every time I would sit on the bed. So that was, I don't know, my sister coming and she could actually finally walk. Um, 3 days after, which growing up Catholic to me was very significant. Um, yeah, it was a neat little story, and that's just like one of
Of
the many moments,
hundreds. Yeah.
the many moments.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There's hundreds. That's yeah. I didn't know that. That's so strange. Yeah. I had a brother with cerebral palsy. I lost most of my family in my early 20s as well. Um,
okay,
so there is, yeah, maybe there's a recipe. There's a recipe in there for some people of
yeah,
of this path, how much trauma we've gone through, how much, um, and it runs in the family as well. My mum was she was psychic, but you didn't talk about it back then. So she'd say the odd
I
thing,
love that.
like, I,
Yep.
I saw your brother at the top of the stairs. He was standing there waving. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I knew when my dad had died. I knew when the next door neighbor had died. I knew um, I could drive past. I did it last year, year before. Drove past a neighbor's house, and all I heard in my head was, "Oh, they're dead." I'm like, what? Okay. And it wasn't them, it was their daughter that had been fighting cancer for a few years. I found out the next day it was her. But it's like, oh, okay, what's the point in telling me? Why are you telling
Yeah,
me? I can't do
just
anything.
one.
I can't help. But yeah, look, there's some crazy synchronicities. So what have we been doing lately? We've been practicing our remote viewing
Remote viewing.
skills, our remote viewing skills. And it's actually going really well, isn't it?
Yes. And for anybody that's listening hasn't heard about remote viewing, it is just kind of like picking up the information from a place after being given a target code. This is something that's been studied by governments around the world, and not one or two studies. This is something that they've been studying for at least 100 years in some governments, and there's very good evidence. Um, and that's why the governments keep doing it. So, as psychic mediums, we both decided this would be
We're going to give it
fun
a
to give it a go.
well, that's the I mean there's probably loads of projects that have happened over the years that we don't know about, but there's the
Yes,
released papers on the
yes.
Gateway project, which was purely remote viewing and how to do it and where to do it. And I think they have sent remote viewing spies over to Russia and during the war and to go and see what the other side's doing, to go and see what they're up to go and to spy on them. It's
Yeah,
spent a hell of a lot of money on.
yeah, and you know what? What else they do is a lot with telepathy, which I think could be one of our
Yes.
future projects. We get this remote viewing down
Mm-hmm.
because again, there's a lot of um, information for people that might be doubting that is available where this is this is very legitimate. There's a lot of proof from organizations that don't necessarily want to give proof of anything metaphysical or paranormal. So it
Yeah,
is wildly cool
absolutely.
to be doing.
And it's I just wanted where did I hear this the other day? There's some scientific experimental whatever they're doing that have looked into psychic abilities and mediumship and things like that. And they come up with the hypothesis that we're not picking up things directly from people that have passed over. What we're doing is telepathy, and what we're doing is picking up the actual thoughts or memories directly from the person that we're reading. You heard this?
You know, I haven't heard it, but it's something that
Even I've thought,
I
oh,
always worry about.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's crossed my mind before. But when you're doing
yeah,
something like remote viewing, you've not got somebody sat in front of you. You've literally just got a target number to go and remote view. So you are not picking anybody else's brains, which to me
no.
proves when you're doing a reading for somebody, you're not doing it, you're picking it up from the universal field. Yeah. The energetic,
Well, you know what? And
you call it.
it's not that. It just it feels different.
Yes.
If I were to do a psychic reading on someone, it feels different than a mediumship reading.
Yes.
Um, and oftentimes the information comes through at different times. So with a mediumship reading, it could be a day before, 2 days before, while I'm minding my own business, I might sense something or see a spirit person quickly move through a space and be like, oh, there's a man here with me today. That's exciting. I'm going to keep going on with my day. With a psychic reading, it doesn't happen that way. I have to think, oh,
Yeah.
I've got this reading coming up, and then I might get a download of information.
Yeah.
But with mediumship, I'm not thinking about my future reading before
Thing.
information is coming.
Yeah. I'll do psychic readings and then somebody will come in while I'm doing a psychic reading. But like you say, they can come in beforehand as well,
Yeah,
because there's times when if I've got a scheduled reading to do, I'll sit down with a pen and paper before I even get on with them and to see what
yeah.
comes through. So It's not, we're not reading somebody else's mind. It's not telepathy. It's not anything like that. And then when you move into the remote viewing, it does almost prove that, because then you're tapping into the universal consciousness, or the universe, or the field, the energetic field. It's not coming from somebody else's mind there. So
Yeah.
we've been just texting each other, like, this is the target number, this is the address, without going to maps and checking it, although I have done that afterwards. Um, and it's been working out really well. And then we were talking last night, we're going to do it on past and future events, because we should be
Yes.
able to, because time doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if we're going backwards or forwards, or we're in the present, to be able to pick up
Mm-hmm.
what goes on. And I think it's a different way of using our abilities. It's a slightly different frequency as well.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
tapping into a slightly different frequency to do it. But I'm hoping, and which way do you want it to go? To the point where we're just awesome at it, or
I'm
where we can actually help clients
ultimately I
do it?
want ultimately I want very specific um, names. I want things to get very specific, because what we're looking at, um, it doesn't involve feelings, um,
Yes.
and so it shouldn't need the nuance um, of a psychic or a mediumship reading,
Yeah.
and there is no need to look at possibilities. So when you're looking at a psychic reading, there you can change your future,
Yeah.
right? There's so much potential to change what is going to
Yeah.
happen based on changing your own energy now. A particular location doesn't have that, so I find that there's a little bit of a variable, or maybe it's like you need to be in a helping field, something like nursing or doctor, where this is literally a doctor's office right now,
Yeah.
so it doesn't need to have the same
Same.
broadness that I find psychic reading benefits from.
Yeah. A
So
psychic
I
reading, you're
get
looking, it can be changed because you're looking at the highest probable timeline
yeah,
for what's going on at that moment in somebody's life, and it can be
yeah.
changed depending on their decisions and their thoughts, intentions. Remote viewing, though, you are literally looking at the facts. You are looking at
Yeah.
a space and time that isn't being changed.
Yeah.
Again, you're not taking other people's feelings into account. That doesn't interfere with it. So it is a slightly different frequency, but it's loads of fun. I'm having loads of
It
fun.
is low. It is like if we were to look at, if I'm doing a psychic reading, and somebody wants to know about what is the best type of career for them, I might, going, oh well, you're going to be great at like Microsoft doing, this customer service job. No, it's like, you know what, your energy really feels great for like at something teaching. It doesn't mean elementary school. It doesn't mean it's some
Yeah,
form of teaching, and then you're fulfilling what your energy is most aligned with, or what you're most compliant with. But if you're looking at a forest, you're not looking at the tree going like, well, you know what, you're most
your best
likely
job.
to work well as a pine tree, and not an aspen. No, it's this is an
This is what
aspen,
it
and
is.
we can figure it out. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and you've given me a lot of targets with quite a bit of history. And what I have been finding is when I'm tuning into those targets, that history is bleeding into the present moment.
Yes.
It's like layers on
Especially,
top of layers on top of layers.
yeah,
I mean, I'd like
especially
to
if there's a
be
personal connection.
current. Yeah. I'd like to tune in my current just a little bit, so we're more within a specific time frame as opposed to a lot of it. But I think the targets you've been given me, that past history is included in the current present history.
Yeah.
It's very much part of the vernacular of those spaces
Yeah.
is
Like you
the
say,
history
it
of those
flyers.
spaces.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're now going to try and do it with places that we're not attached to, don't have any emotional feelings with, can be the um yeah, do it without any emotions attached to it and see where we go with that. Because I want to go to the moon. I want to go see Dogman. I want to go Mars. Just fucked up. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna go down some rabbit holes, and you need to come on again because we need to update everybody on our progress, your progress, and I want to hear some more stories as well because
Yeah.
I think the stories are
Well,
experiences, not stories, experiences.
and well, I'm looking forward to, you exploring places we shouldn't be exploring through remote viewing. I'm looking forward to the black helicopters are flying above my house stories. That's
Yeah,
going to be very exciting.
again, again. Yeah, they've done that before. They're going to do it again if I go too far down this rabbit hole. But hey,
Mm-hmm.
they do it. Um, have you got a website or email or anything that I can give out to anybody if they wanted to get in touch with you?
Yes, I am at yolantamarie.com. So it's YOLANTAMERI.com. And my Instagram and Facebook handles are, I believe, Yolanta Marie or Spiritual Medium Yolanta Marie.
Okay, cool. And are you doing any of the shows this
Holistic
year?
Healing Fair this Saturday, the Peterborough Holistic Healing Fair, and possibly the fall Peterborough Holistic Healing Fair as well.
Oh,
I've not set up a big event calendar this year. I'm focusing more on in-persons at Studio 32 in Peterborough.
mm-hmm.
Um, my my plan for the year,
Yeah,
although that may change.
it may
I'm going
change.
with the flow.
What date are you at Peterborough?
And date is the spring fair is on March 22nd from 10 till 4 o'clock at the Stonehouse Hall or the Peterborough Curling Club. If
Awesome.
you know
So people can
Peterborough
pop
Curling,
in, do some shopping, go get a reading,
yes,
everything else.
absolutely.
And I'll put your details down below. Cool. Take care.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get on again soon. Okay.